On this computer. Hi, it's Sue Greenwald here with Awakened Stories. I'm here today with Deanna Carr. Hey, Deanna.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Deanna's with the Mystical Moonlight Channel, and we do all sorts of fun interviews. And
Mhm.
today's topic is Martin Luther King. So we want to know the truth about what really happened. All right. So I thought what we'd do is recap the story a little bit. Just, all right. So what we've all been taught in school and what our recollection is of the story, and then
Mhm.
see how that goes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So Martin Luther King was an amazing public speaker, and he was a Baptist minister, and he had a degree in theology, and his
Mhm.
father was a Baptist minister. So he kind of followed in the footsteps. He got a degree, he became a minister and an amazing public speaker, and then started standing up for, the blacks mostly in this country. So at the time in the 50s and 60s, there was a lot of racial unrest, and he was promoting nonviolent resistance, basically. All right. So peaceful protest. All right. And he was actually awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. I want to say it was like 1964 or something. I don't know. But he was one of the youngest people that ever won that Peace Prize. Okay. So
Mhm.
he had organized lots of marches, lots of protests, all peaceful. He became kind of a leader for oppression, those oppressed in our country at that time. All right. So everybody knew who he was. He did marches in Washington, and he was the one that wrote and performed the speech that's now famous, I Have a Dream. And I don't know about you, but in high school, that was a big thing. We had to listen to the speech. We had to perform the speech ourselves in
Mhm.
public speaking. So that was cool. Anyway, I think it was 1968, he was assassinated. So he was shot by, later found out, a guy named James Earl Ray in Memphis and died from that, theoretically. So that's like kind of a glossy overview of his life. And he was really he was the figurehead for those that were oppressed in our country, racial injustice, those in poverty, those that had injustice, voting rights, all sorts of stuff like that. So that's what we're taught. Is that what your understanding of the story is?
Yes. Now there's
What you were taught, I guess I should say.
what what I was taught, yes, that's what we were taught in school.
Yeah,
We didn't really have to perform the speech, but everybody knew the speech. I mean, it's still used in,
yeah,
people's speeches today. So it's
yeah.
still very iconic for what he did.
Yes, good way to say it. So here's the first question. Well, there's so many questions, but was Martin Luther King the guy we thought he was based on that biography overview? Was he really, a good guy working for peace and justice for racial inequality and all of that?
Yes, he was.
Yay, okay. Here's the big thing I wanted to get to, and maybe I'm skipping too far ahead. They say he was shot on the balcony of his hotel in
Mhm.
1968. But I've heard rumors that he was actually smothered to death in the hospital. So maybe he was shot, but he died from lack of air. Would you agree with either one of those theories?
He was not shot. He was suffocated, and then later on, it was set up to look like somebody took him out.
Oh, okay. See, this is why I love doing these. All right, so tell us that story.
Okay, so, well, like you said earlier, he was a figurehead. He was motivating people for change.
Yeah,
And some people don't like change, especially when it messes with their pockets and their agenda.
right.
So we know who I'm talking about. If you don't, figure it out. Um, they wanted him to be out of the picture. But like everything else, they have to set it up. They can't just take out somebody because then it comes back to them, right? So if they set it up to look like somebody's taking him out, there's nothing coming back to them. And it looks like somebody's just mad because they're creating change.
Okay.
but he was creating such a widespread, I don't know, like healthy deed, but he was changing the energy of our country
Right.
and further out also. So they wanted him out of the picture so that way they could take that energy away and flip it. So when you have all these people saying, okay, this doesn't work for us, we're not considered, we're oppressed, going down the full list, they're realizing, hey, we actually have power. Okay, we actually have a lot more people than they do. And then it starts building up that confidence. And then that energy starts to change to, you know what, why are we sitting back and not doing anything? And he was doing it on a positive way. Like he wasn't doing it in a forceful way
Right.
versus some other people. Um, and that's what really scared them because people saw that they could get a point across in a healthy, positive way to create change for themselves and for others. And by taking him out, he caused a ripple effect. Now, not everything switched instantly, but it did create this ripple effect that we're still seeing coming through.
Okay. So basically, he was suffocated in the hotel. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, he was suffocated in the hotel, then later on brought to the room, placed on the balcony, and it was basically a setup show.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Now, James Earl Ray was, I think he was a convict. I don't actually, I didn't, I don't know much
Mm,
about him, but he was the one that was used as the patsy in this case.
yeah,
Was he at all involved, or was he just a guy they used to blame?
kind of both. It wasn't by choice. He was actually kind of set up for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume that. All right. So the death of Martin Luther King, of course, was a huge blow to everyone because,
Mhm.
again, peaceful protest. Okay, he was amplifying the injustice in our country. Like the injustice was there, right? But everyone
Yeah.
just like they grew up and they went about their business the way they'd been taught, and the
Mhm.
ones that were oppressed obviously felt it more than the other ones, right?
Yeah.
But he really brought it out to the surface and made people look at what was happening. All right.
Mhm.
And then people banded together and they were like, this is wrong. And again, peaceful protests, marches, nothing
Mhm.
aggressive and violent at that point. And
Mhm.
so that was why he was taken out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened there is they kind of created a martyr, but then they created a lot of anger because he was killed.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because
it,
they switched that vibrational pattern. They went from this healthy, we're creating change,
right.
excitement for change, to they just took out somebody that people were looking up to that was, you know, somebody that was taking their time out of their day to help better other people. Even though they were still going through the same thing as everybody else, they were getting through. And I think that's what really hurt people was, he was really creating this hero figure to people. When you're stuck in this low vibrational taking from back and forth, I don't know what you want to call it, like energy, that was somebody that they could look up to. Okay, he's actually going to help us. He's going to create change. It gave them hope.
Even
And that's what they're really scared about was that hope leading to something else. Because what most people kind of forget is we are more than the government. We are more than the things that have been put in place. And when we band together, we can alter change. But when we don't have hope and we kind of stay in this sluggish mode, we don't really think about that. And we're just like, okay, we'll just go with the flow. So he was being that beacon for people. And that's really what they were afraid of was how far could this light shine? Because it's not just America that, has issues. We have plenty of them, but there are a lot of other countries that have issues too. And so if we could figure that out here in a larger country, what about these smaller countries? We could definitely take that and help them get out of those oppression cycles.
Right. Well said. So basically, if you look around society at this point in time, what we see is people are frustrated, they're overwhelmed, they're harried, they don't know, they're hopeless, they're helpless, they don't know what to do. And so, like in this case, Trump is their hope, right? For the most part, they're hoping he's going to just free them from all the stuff that's going on. And that's why he's got these massive crowds.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, you know, that ant movie where the grasshopper says to the other grasshoppers, hey, if they figured it out and banded against them, you know, they could overpower us in a second. And that's the problem. We're kept in a low vibration. We're kept distracted, basically working for a living, our technology, our TV shows, our games, and all of that. So we're really not focused on what's going on out there in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
So,
worried about just surviving.
yeah,
We're in survival mode.
yeah,
And it's unfortunate, but it's definitely been set up so we don't think about the bigger picture. We think about our
yeah,
mundane everyday life because that's
yeah,
we're all a part of that. I mean, our lives are all different and we have to do what we have to do to get by.
right,
And some people have, better fortune. Some people, have bad luck. It doesn't matter. But if we're all distracted by something, we're never going to work together to get to the end goal, which is
right.
peace.
Peace, peace, right. So I just thought, you know, so we do these basically intuitively. So I come up with a topic every week, and I was like, I don't really have a topic, right? So I was making things up, but I knew they weren't the right thing. And then I was told Martin Luther King, we got to talk about that. Now, I didn't do a lot of research, you know, we're doing this, what would you call it, off the cuff, right? So just
Yeah.
recapping the story and poking a few holes in it and just basically provoking the viewers, you know, thoughts a little bit more like, wow, I didn't know that. I wonder what else hasn't been true that I've been taught throughout my education, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the thing is, a lot of people probably already have this intuition.
yeah,
Like they probably have like questioned it, but it's been embedded in us so much that the books are right, the books are right, the books are
yeah,
right.
yeah,
And sometimes you get to that spot where, you really do think like, are they right? I mean, I've questioned when I was in school, I questioned a lot of stuff.
yeah,
I mean, some of it makes no sense.
yeah,
But you have to regurgitate the information, you have to write articles, you have to write exams, yada, yada, yada. So you're just giving back that information. Over time, it becomes a form of brainwash where, okay, this is how it is, and this is the only way it is.
right,
Versus that independent, intuitive thinking where it's like, this doesn't seem accurate. Maybe
right,
I should look deeper.
right. So basically, we're indoctrinated.
Yeah.
Yeah, ugly. Okay.
Mhm.
Anything else we should know about this particular story or Martin Luther King's life? Like, I like to think that if he was still here, we would have seen great changes in our
Mhm.
society much more quickly than we are now. I mean, it's different, in my opinion. Things are better and different from that perspective than they were back then. But can you
Mhm.
imagine if he was still here? How great the change would have been at that point.
Yeah, I think it would have been a lot further than it is today.
Yes,
Um, there is still a lot going on with, everything that he was trying to change. And it's very sad because, one thing I always say is we're in 2024. We should be beyond this, but unfortunately we're not.
right,
So I think if he was still here, the change would have been even more impactful than it is today.
right,
So it's definitely the reason they took him out.
right. Okay. Well, anything else we need to know about this story at this point?
I don't think so. If you guys have questions,
Yeah.
just put it in the comments and we'll get to it.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate you giving us this insight.
Of course. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.